Welcome to this episode of Inside the SCCA presented by RacingWire.com. On this episode, Club Spec update. Welcome to episode 178 of Inside the SCCA presented by RacingWire.com. I'm Brian Bielanski. Joining me today is Brian Mason. Brian is he's got this title. You have to have two business cards to put it on. He's the National Solo Series Senior Manager. Brian, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Brian. Thanks for having me on the show.
Welcome to the show again. Appreciate you having me on here. And I guess I could skip over the question because I know I've asked it to you before. And that is always, how'd you get mixed up with this crazy sport? But since you've already asked that, I got to come up with a question to ask people who've been on the show a second time. What would be a good question? Why? How about this? Why do you keep doing the sport?
I was going to say, still here.
That
What's
love?
Going on?
That's a good second question. Why do you keep doing this?
Gosh, the job or the sport?
Both. Well, let's start with... Yeah, let's do both.
The sport. So I've been autocrossing for over 40 years. I've lost track now. I started in 83, so quite a while. And I've come and gone. I had kids that pulled me away for a while. I tried some other things, but it always draws you back, right? I mean, autocross is just one of those things that you can't walk away. It always pulls you back in. And I just love it. I mean, I absolutely just super passionate about the sport. I enjoy it immensely. Cars are really fun. Love playing with them, but just the driving part of it on the autocross course is just, it's really what it's all about. And, having fun, lots of good people out there. And so, yeah. And then the job wise, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So this is my third year, in the program. So things are rolling pretty good. We're headed, I think, in the right direction, keeping things moving, and lots of good stuff to come. So keep on steering it down that road of seeing what's next.
So I've spent many too many years in television and in broadcasting, and I always, I've passed on opportunities over the years to go work in motorsports broadcasting until I was laid off a couple of years back from the job that I thought was going to be my final job before retirement. I thought this was going to take me all the way to retirement, and I got laid off. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to go and start a podcast, and that has gotten me down the road to doing this and a couple of other podcasts and the Super Tour announcing and all that kind of stuff. But I always stayed away from it on purpose because I said to myself, if I work in this, what am I going to do on my weekends as a hobby? Because I got a hobby that I absolutely love. When you decided to go work at your hobby, how was that decision for you?
It for me, and I've been doing it. It's been a job. My hobby's been a job now for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And it really what ended up happening. I enjoy it. I enjoy the organization, the execution, the event promotion, all those things, to where that, I get joy out of that, right?
Nice.
I mean, it's whether it's, being competitive and just trying to put on the best event you can every single weekend in and out, or whatever, that drive though. And there's lots of people from within this organization and other ones out there that, whether it's, who knows, right? Ping pong tournament or whatever. I mean, there's organizers out there and they want to make sure that the people that are there, right? So most of the autocrossers are on vacation or it's their weekend or they're taking vacation to come to Lincoln. And so it's our responsibility to give them the best time they can.
Right.
And I think that's true with any hobby, whether if you're golfing in a tournament or whatever it is, right? I mean, that's something that the organizers and execute, I think they all share that in common is we want to just make sure that everybody has this, that's, we provide the opportunity for them to have as good a time as they can. And so I haven't driven much a lot in the last, really, since I've been doing this. I mean, it's the point now where, pretty much every weekend through the season, I'm at an event, and I can drive if I want in some of the events, but it's, I still want to make sure that the event's running well and that sort of thing. And driving becomes, you can't concentrate on it if you're concentrating on making sure the event's running well. So, it's, I wouldn't say it's a trade-off. It's a decision that I made, which I'm happy with. Yeah. Do I miss driving? Yeah, but I get my fix in every once in a while, but really my passion now is actually making sure events go well.
Cool. Yeah, you answered my second question, was how much do you get to drive these days? So, you going to drive at Solo Nationals?
I don't think I am. Okay. Yeah, I'm not entered. I don't have any plans to. I drove last year, which was fun, and I'd really love to drive this year again. But I did get to test the courses. All right. So I've run the courses probably more than anybody else will get to.
Okay.
So I know everybody will have, I don't know, everybody have a good time, right? Hopefully everybody has a good time, because I sure did. They're a lot of fun. But I'm sure by the time Thursday rolls around, I'll be wishing I had jumped in the car and drove.
So if you've tested the courses, could you do Solo Nationals?
Long enough ago? There's, we have some rules in there about if you drove the course ahead of time, you get a certain number of runs disqualified, that sort of thing. So if I drive, it tends to disqualify my runs. So if I've pre-driven the course, which most events, or actually all events that I go to, we have national events wise, we'll have staff member test the course, right? To work with the course designer, make sure everything kind of works, and that sort of thing. So as a staff member, usually I'm the one that does that. So I'll get put a few laps in on the courses before everybody else does. And so if I decide to drive in that event, then usually my runs are DQ'd, and I just get to do it for fun. So,
well, if you want to have some fun and you want to drive a slow H-stock Honda Fit, you got an invitation. How's that?
I appreciate that. It's one car I've never driven, and
you won't be upset if you don't drive it.
They're a lot of fun, I hear. So, but I think you're running Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah. So I'll
you'll be busy.
Tuesday, Wednesday. We want to make sure everything's going well.
I got you.
I can try to relax a little bit Thursday, Friday, which would open up. Last year, I actually drove in the last heat on Thursday and Friday in F Street, and so figured by then, if the event's not running good,
it's too late.
It's too late now, right?
Exactly.
Jump in a car anyway.
Exactly.
So
it's too good. So we got you on here today. We're going to talk a little bit more about Solo Nationals in a little bit later, but we brought you on today because we got this new thing we started. First time this year, called Club Spec. There's Club Spec Mustang and Club Spec MX-5. A new concept. It was kind of introduced late last year as an idea, or middle of last year. You took some member input. Members said they wanted to have, of all the cars that they have out there, that we could do this. I think there was like 5 or 10 maybe options that were presented as possibilities. None of the options that I chose, because I chose the Honda Fit, and
that actually made it, I think, fairly far along the way, right? So,
but not surprisingly, a Mazda was one of them,
right?
And also not surprising, because they're everywhere, a Mustang. Those are the two options, and I believe it's a 157 Mustang. What's the designated S9?
Yeah,
9 something. I should have known this. I should have written this down. Anyway,
right.
It's like the 2008, 2012-ish Mustangs.
Yeah,
and then the Spec MX-5, the MX-5 cars, and there was a package put together so that each Mustang and Mazda has essentially the same stuff on it, and two different. Mazda Motorsports was the purveyor of the parts for the Spec MX-5 car, and Sam Strano is the guy who's responsible for pulling all the parts together for the Spec Mustang, Club Spec Mustang. And the packages are kind of similar in price. I think the Mazda package is a little bit more expensive, but not by much. And now we're a year into this. First cars got on the track in I guess it would have been January. I've had a chance to drive one of the Club Spec Mustangs. Goodyear put one together because the Club Spec Mustang spec tire is the Goodyear, I think it was what it's called, the F1 Super F1. Their tire, great tire, by the way. Had a ton of fun on that thing.
Yeah.
And then the second car, the Mazda has its own spec tire. I don't remember what the Mazda spec tire is. Is that the?
It's Falcon.
It's a Falcon. Yep, there you go. Thank you.
Yep.
And we've got some cars out there now. Do you have any idea how many Club Spec cars are out there, each in Mustangs and in Mazdas? Just a ballpark.
No, probably should have did some digging. And gotten answers for you, because we would know how many kits were sold, right? So that would be a pretty easy answer. But I actually do not have that number.
We'll put it in the show notes if you can get it to me.
Let's do that.
Next couple
we'll
of
get
days.
That number. Yeah.
But there's a good number of them, because I've seen people talking about them. I've seen video on YouTube of people driving their cars. You've had a chance to drive both.
Correct.
So that was the reason why I was told you were the guy to do this podcast. Got to get Mason. He's driven both. And I drove. It was
just because it was late and everybody else didn't want to.
No.
Stay up this late.
You have a particular expertise, is what I've been told. But anyway, so and I've driven the Mustang a little bit, but not in competition. So what's you've got 40 years of experience doing this sport.
Yep.
What's your impression of both cars?
They're both really fun. Is the easy way to put it. Of course, I didn't build either one of them, right? I just drove them, and regularly drive them. And they're fun. They're I want to say simple. But it's a package, right? So you get this package and you put it all together. But the package is meant to be a comfortable car that you can drive on the street. You can drive on the track. You can drive it, at an autocross. You can do a hill climb with it with a little bit of safety, additions to it. And so, it's kind of meant to be, you don't have to make any changes to do all that.
Right.
And so that's what's really cool about it is they're just very well rounded. It's been fun to watch them this year. From a watching them perspective. I mean, you bring them out, you throw the numbers on them, and you go at it and have a good time. And so that's kind of the best part about it. Really is the simplicity of it all, and how well and they handle fantastic. Both of them do. And so it's kind of a middle of the road thing. The tires aren't huge, overly large. Compared to some of the classes that other NC Miatas might run or the Mustangs might run, right? So it's a good sized tire. It's not crazy, overly huge. It's not crazy amounts of power on either car, but it's adequate.
Right.
It's certainly adequate for both of them, and so that helps with reliability and just fun to drive, easy, get out and just run it kind of stuff. So
right, I think of it as kind of the easy button. It's
for sure, definitely.
It's a step above a street class. Where do you think it would fall in? Would it fall into maybe street prepared if it were just a class?
Not quite, and it's more of a street touring kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay. So because street prepared, you get into Hoosiers,
right?
And that makes a huge difference. And there's some other things, but the MX-5. NC Miata is not quite STR prepped,
sure,
but it has that STR feel.
Okay,
I think, and it's just you do have less power to work with,
right?
But it's as far as the handling goes, weight, all that stuff, it has that feel of a good handling STR car, which is kind of cool. And then the Mustang, same thing. It doesn't have the power of say a Cam Mustang maybe.
Right.
And then the tire size is a little bit smaller than that, but it's, and then F Street is kind of hard to put it up against because, gosh, they just went crazy with the
Sure.
Mach 1s and dark horses and all that stuff lately. But, but as far as Mustangs go, from just Mustangs from a few years ago, it has that same feel. So,
yeah. My experience with the Mustang was 100% a hoot to drive,
exactly.
And very, very predictable. Once I got a couple of runs in, I could make the thing break away when I wanted it to break away, and it was really easy to bring back in, without really having to kill your momentum to do it. The brakes were really nice, and of course, I've spent all of my competitive from both road racing and autocross. A little bit of autocross I've done have been in Hondas and Spec Racer. Spec Renaults, that's how old I am, Sports Renault.
Oh, yeah, fun.
But nothing high powered, nothing with, big slick tires. So that's my comparison to what I found when I got into the Mustang. And I was a little intimidated when I got it. I mean, this is a big high horsepower, this is a race car, and it was pretty dummy proof. And a ton of fun to drive. And I saw the potential. Dave Ogburn, who drove it with us, and he's a professional driver for Goodyear, and he could drive it really, really fast and really, really hard. And I couldn't do anything like that, but he had fun doing it, and I had fun doing it. And I thought that was pretty cool. So when the other thing I think it's interesting in this is because it's a spec class, everyone's basically driving the same stuff, and now it becomes a driver's class.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it keeps it simple. The goal is to to put together. You have a list of parts, right? And we can send you to one place to get all the parts, and then you put them all together, and that makes it fairly easy, right, to do all that. But it also, the parts are really carefully chosen so that they're drivable cars, right? And not huge range of adjustments and that sort of thing. And it just makes it so that it's just that it's a driver's class,
right?
And you just set it up with just the right parts to get it to where it handles well and behaves well and all those things. And then, you do your tweaks, right? Everybody has their own little tweak, whether it's whatever it might be. And then you just go at it. So,
right. You didn't build the car. I didn't build the car, but everyone I've talked to who has is basically said that anybody with even a basic knowledge of car stuff, your typical car people, can get this build made without necessarily taking it to someone to have them do it for you. Essentially, it's all bolt-on parts, and you and a buddy. I know the Mustang they did in a weekend. So if you're really, really motivated to get it all done in one weekend, you can absolutely get the build done in a weekend. If you're doing it by yourself in your garage, you might want to plan 2 or 3 weekends, just so you're not killing yourself to get it done. But not a hard job to do. And I think that's also a nice part of this. You don't have to take it to a prep shop necessarily to have the work done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the really cool thing about it. I was talking to a driver, one of the drivers early in the season with the Mustang showed up, I think down in our one of our Beeville events. And he said he had come from a prepared class and had years and years and years of experience driving and prepared and all that. And he said he's excited about this because he just kind of got to the point where it was like, every week when you show up in that class, your competition has always done something else, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, now, what's he, oh, great. Now I got to go out and, work on this or try to get that better or this or that in the off season and all those things. And he was saying he's just really relieved and excited to know that you put the car together and that's it. And now you just go out and drive it and week to week and month to month. And you don't have to worry about having the best, latest this or that, or spending that, all that crazy unobtainium part
Sure.
stuff. And
Sure.
yeah, and that's what the great thing about any spec class really, but certainly these club spec cars.
Right. Could you give me the impression of the difference between how the Mazda drives versus the Mustang drives? Because you've done both.
Yeah. The obvious difference is size, right? I mean, they're two, I would say, completely different cars when it comes to at least on the autocross course. The only place I've driven them is on an autocross course. But as far as that goes, it's the MX-5 or the Miata is a momentum car really, and so it handles like that. You have to drive it like that, and it's just a small, nimble car that does a lot of things really well. Accelerates at a decent rate, handles incredibly well, and then and decelerates well. So it's that type of just small momentum car kind of experience. And then the Mustang is not that way at all. I mean, it's a big car. It's not an overly huge car, but it sure is pretty darn big. And it doesn't feel that big when you drive it, but that you're using more of the power and so
Right.
forth to get it to do what you want it to do, right? Going from corner to corner and that sort of thing. So they really the cars that I've driven, I'm trying to think how many. I think I've driven 3 different CSX cars and probably 3 different of the CSM cars, and they're all it's that all of them are the same, and in that you really just they're different. I guess is the best way I can put it. It's if you jump from a bigger V8 powered car,
Right.
Down to a smaller sports car, right, kind of thing.
Sure. While it wasn't the ones I would have chosen if I were picking the 2 models, I think it makes really good sense that this is the direction that was taken, because you've got Mazda, who has been one of the absolute biggest supporters of the Sports Car Club of America for I don't know how long now, 20 years maybe. And really the last manufacturer who's putting any significant amount of support behind what we do. And I don't want to say rewarding them with this class, but it's there. And there's so much history and so much knowledge that it made sense to do a Mazda of some sort. And then for those people who want that American muscle, thump your chest, wave the flag kind of thing, you've got the Mustang, which, there's not a whole lot more iconic than a Mustang or a Camaro or a Corvette. So, I just think the choices were really good in the direction that the club members chose when they decided which ones to take here. So,
both of them are plentiful in the market.
Yes.
I mean that there's a lot of reasons that those 2 cars were chosen, but the NC Miata is kind of a given, right? I mean it's a good fit. There's a lot of them out there. They're not crazy expensive. And the parts availability through Mazda Motorsports is fantastic, and support is fantastic. And so that's kind of as a given, right? The Mustang was kind of I want to, at least in my eyes, kind of a wild card thing, because it was one of those cars where it's like a lot of people are competing in Mustangs already.
Right.
And the idea of more of them coming out, it was like, I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought, but it's just, there's been a huge, the acceptance of it and the number of them turning out and the excitement about it is just, it's just blowing my mind. I mean, I love it. I think it's really exciting. It's fun to watch. Both, the neat thing about a club spec class is they're all the drivers in the grid. There's a vibe in the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And some classes, have more than others. But in particular, these 2, and we've really seen it. The Mustangs early on, we saw them show up earlier than the Miatas in terms of number of cars per event and that sort of thing. But the camaraderie and the it's just really fun to watch in the grid and afterwards we have impound, right? And then we have to chase them out sometimes because they're just hanging out, just having a good time. And so that's one of the really neat things about it too, is just the whole, the environment and the camaraderie that comes with running a class like that. So
right.
I think it's neat. Those two, I think it's really neat to have those two cars.
Yeah.
In the grid now.
Yeah. I know the idea of the class is to have a single car that could compete in multiple disciplines. So obviously we're talking primarily autocross at the moment, but the intention is for this car to be able to go and compete in the time trials, to go and compete in maybe some hill climbs, and obviously any car could go compete in a road rally. I think the only thing that really is not on the list is wheel-to-wheel road racing. But that's not to say that isn't a possibility either. Have you seen that the Club Spec cars are starting to show up in some of those other events also?
I think so. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot outside of autocross, but I know earlier this year we had our first Club Spec Mustang that competed in autocross, so in a national autocross, and then entered a time trial event, and also added and then completed the trifecta, which would be one of the hill climbs.
Nice.
And that was actually Mark Bilson was the driver out of Eastern Tennessee. But so yeah, he was the first one to take it to all three, of our major events and do that. And so it's it's super easy to do that. Obviously, with hill climbs, you have to have a little bit more safety in there than say autocross. But yeah, the thing is equally at home on the track as it is on an autocross course or a hill climb or on the street, which is the best part. It's cool just to in really comfortable street cars.
Right. Not the intention, but one of the things I found interesting was with the Spec SMX or I can never remember, Club Spec CSX car.
Yep.
The package is, for the most part, the same package as the Spec MX-5 road race car, the suspension package, which means that if you go through this and you really get hooked, because of course nobody gets hooked, right? And you decide, wow, I might want to go road racing. You can then you can upgrade the car, build it out to become a Spec MX-5 car, right? I think.
Yeah, I as much about that, or sounds like more about that than I do.
Yeah.
But yes, that's definitely the case. I know from limited knowledge that the MX-5 classes are taking off, right, in road racing.
Yeah.
Super popular. Yeah. And so yeah, this is it's a good, certainly a good opportunity for working your way in and working your way up.
Yeah, it's
you wanted to do it that way.
Great way to kind of put your big toe in the water and test the water a little bit, and then if you want to get a little more exciting or a little more aggressive or whatever you want to do, there's opportunities there. I think to step up. So last thing before we kind of transition over to talking about Solo Nationals and the Pro Solo Finale. I know the discussions were they bring the cars out, they get a year's worth of information and knowledge and data, and then they would revisit the rules packages to see if any changes were, made sense. And I know that just recently there was some stuff that came out where they've allowed some more stuff with the Mustangs. Can you just fill us in slightly about what that is, and if there's anything maybe coming for the Mazdas?
Yeah, well, as far as the Mustang goes, there was some. I think the way it really worked out was it's kind of an older model, and so there's a lot of them out there, and they came in various packages, whether it's California Special or Bullet or Shelby, and then there were maybe some dealer installed stuff, but mainly appearance things, whether it's spoilers or scoops or that kind of thing. And just, as you go by these things, right, and to make it a little easier on everybody, it's just an appearance type package, parts, that kind of thing, no performance enhancements come from any of those parts. Just to try to make it a little simpler, I think, we're looking at or implementing to where any of those parts, are legal essentially.
Right.
And so I think that's the big change that I saw recently for the Mustangs. And, excuse me. And then, I haven't heard too much about the Miata, the NC Miata. One thing we are doing is we're keeping an eye on weights. When we first came out, the rules had a minimum weight. We've been collecting data from the events where we weigh at all the national events for sure. And seeing where the weights are coming in and trying to figure out where that needs to be. So we really haven't enforced the minimum weight this year. And at nationals, we're going to weigh again. We'll weigh all the CSX cars, and we're going to weigh the CSM cars too, just as a data point and see what we have. But we're really just trying to figure out, where we need to be on those weights. Sure. And so this year, I think will be more of an information gathering process than enforcement process with the CSX cars.
Right. And you don't have to trust our memories on this stuff, folks. You can go to the Club Spec Facebook page. I know there was a big post on what the rules changes are going to be, so don't quote us. Don't all of that. Just there are official means to find this out. But I just wanted to get it out there that it is being looked at, and the club has been pretty receptive to suggestions from the people who are out there building these things, and it's you never always get it perfectly right when you take the first swing at it. And that's kind of what they're doing now. Is the first swing's been out there. People have had a chance to drive the cars and go out and find cars to buy, and this is what they're learning. They share that information with all the folks involved with the rule set, and I think that there's some reasonable accommodations that are being made just now that we have a year's worth of data points on what it takes to put these things together. So. Some pretty cool stuff. All right, let's take a quick break. Was there anything else on Club Spec that we should chat before we move on? I think we covered most of it, right?
Yeah, I think so. Other than one thing that we'll have at nationals coming up will be one of the days on the practice course. We're going to have more than a couple of cars out there. So if you're interested in it, thinking about it, that kind of thing, come on by. See if we can get you behind the wheel of one, that kind of thing. I believe that is Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. That's probably one of those times where Facebook has more information, more accurate than others. But the Facebook page might be the way to go on that. And but yeah, that's certainly something that we're going to put out there for folks that see if we can't convince a few more people to join the fun at nationals this year.
I'm going to see if I can get this called up while you're answering a long question to get that answered after we're done taking my little break here. So real quick, while we just breathe, if you want to grab a sip of water or something, Brian, it'll take me about 30 seconds to bang this out. But Ray Esports is the official sim racing series of Inside the SCCA. If you want to go have some fun with your sim and race a bunch of SCCA racers, Tuesday night, Saturday, and Sunday leagues, tons of fun. Ray Esports, check them out. Also, our let's see which one pops up next. I believe it's Solo Performance Specialties is the next little, and you're going to see all of the logos up above me here. Yep, Solo Performance Specialties is next. They are one of our sponsors here. Of course, they are at most of the Solo National Tour events and across the country. Dave and his crew, awesome people. And even if you're not at one of those events, go to their website. They sell and ship. I just got my harnesses for Solo Nationals and put them in last weekend from Dave. Really helpful with that. Also, let's see. Up next, of course, it's Inside the SCCA presented by RaceSchool.com. RaceSchool.com is our new presenting sponsor. Big thank you to them for coming on board. They're one of the top California schools, and people come from all over the country out here to go do a school out of Buttonwillow or at Willow Springs. If you if you pass the school, I always have to remember, you got to actually pass the school. You'll walk out of there with an SCCA license if you go to the right school, and you can take yourself right to an SCCA event. And they also have defensive driving courses and high-performance driving experiences. Really good people. Check them out, raceschool.com. And then finally, Racekeeper, the official in-car camera of Inside the SCCA. Check them out while they are for your camera needs for your cars, and we will be. They are with us for that. All right, we are going to get right back at it, Brian, and talk a little bit about Solo Nationals, and that's coming up here. Let's see, this is going to air on Thursday. A week from tomorrow is when people will start rolling in, and the Pro Solo finale is up first.
Correct. Yep. Pro Solo finale, which is our final Pro Solo event of the year. So those of you who know, those of you who don't know, the finale you have to qualify for.
Yeah.
So normal Pro Solos during the year, anybody can come out. Finale, we have a tiered entry, and you have to run really at least 2 events to get in, 3 events. It's gotten to the point where, again, we're filling them out pretty good now. So there's a certain number of points that you need to score to really get in. Because we capped out. I think this year we reached our cap in 48 minutes.
48 minutes
after the
wow.
Once we opened it up to the remaining tiers. So it happens pretty quick. But this being the finale, we give a few extra points to the finishers, and then helps to make a really fun competitive event for the last event of the year for the everybody going in the class championships and all that stuff. So we'll run that Saturday and Sunday at Nationals, and so if you get out there early for Nationals, come on by just afternoon. We'll start the challenges, the ladies challenge, and then we'll run first and super challenge. So all the class competitions Saturday, and then again Sunday morning, and then usually just afternoon we'll start the 2 challenges and run through those. So those are a lot of fun to watch if you're not competing, and just like every event there at Lincoln, you get up front, sit on the bleachers, and watch the cars go head to head, which is a really exciting part of Pro Solo.
Had David and Kim Whitener on last night.
Yeah.
And to talk about Solo 101, when we do the 101 episodes, I always act as the newbie and ask the newbie questions. And when I say act, it's because I've done most of the different things in this club over the last 35 years. Not a whole lot I haven't done. Well, in this particular case, I wasn't acting. I've never done a Pro Solo. So it was really kind of cool to kind of pick their brain and learn a little bit about that. Learned a ton. And I'm going to try. Usually I roll into Lincoln later on Sunday afternoon. I may get up really early on Sunday morning and make my final trek into Lincoln so I can be there for the challenges on Sunday afternoon. Really, really intrigued by this process. And I think, will you be at the Pro Solos next year in Vegas probably?
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well, I may have to show up and try this out for the first time, because I think that's the closest one to me here in Southern California. So,
yeah, probably. Southern California is tough to find sites lately, and so that's kind of hampered us a little bit in terms of getting an event down there. But we do run in Vegas, and we're planning on doing it again next year. And definitely come out. We'll, we can run your Honda Fit, or if you want a little more, if you want to get off the line a little quicker, we can probably find something that might get off the line a little quicker for you too.
I call the car Papa Smurf. It's blue, and I find an intriguing challenge taking the slowest car in all of autocross to these events and trying to act like it's not the slowest car in all of autocross. So I might just bring the Fit and do it with that and have a little bit of fun with it. So. Then on Monday, we ramp up. Monday's kind of the setup day for the 4-day Solo Nationals, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The event is the same format that it has been for I guess a long time. Half of us are going to run on Tuesday, Wednesday. The other half will run on Thursday and Friday. And this year I run on Tuesday, Wednesday, which I'm resigned to that fact. I'm guessing you kind of try to flip the classes every year, and
yeah, there's
as much as you can.
There's a lot more to it than that, but yeah, flipping it, try to keep it fresh that way. But there's also numbers games that you have to juggle with. I'm glad I don't have to do any of that. We've got some really smart people out there that keep an eye on that stuff. But
well, the reason
we try to rotate it.
Yeah, the reason I resigned myself, I didn't understand, because last year was my first ever trip, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I learned last year that there's a huge advantage to going Thursday, Friday, because you have all of Tuesday and Wednesday's YouTube videos that people have taken and uploaded after their runs on Tuesday, Wednesday. So in addition to walking the course, which is what everybody does, you can sit at home and rabbit hole YouTube videos on Tuesday and Wednesday night while you're chomping down on your pizza in your hotel room, and that's a huge advantage for the folks who get to run Thursday, Friday. As long as you find a YouTube video of someone who did it right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Got to pick and choose.
Selective.
Got to pick and choose. So what is, last year was a big one. That was a big anniversary last year. We had, there's 1,300 slots, and I know there was a wait list last year, and I know not everybody got in, but there were most everybody. I think there was only maybe 20 or 30 that didn't. This year, I think everybody who wants to come is coming, right? Last I checked, there were like 1,288 on the list.
Yeah, probably. So we capped it again at 1,300 because that's really about the limit that we can do in terms of, on a per day basis.
Right.
And so, and then we'll start. This is about the time where you start getting the cancellations, right? From people that for whatever reason decide or not. But we'll be, I would think the wait list will be cleared this year. And
right now we're at 1,280, and I actually think that's I checked a couple of days ago and it was at 1,288. So, yep, definitely getting some cancellations here. So it'll still be full. I don't think that paddock's going to feel empty with 25 less cars.
No.
For those who've never been there, can you help me explain the scope of what this is? Because I had Larry on for my preview shows last year, Larry Lefty McLeod. Yep. And he's like, you just, and he said it to me a seventh. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've been to the June sprints. I've been to the runoffs. I've been to Formula One and I've not been to Formula. I've been to IndyCar and NASCAR. And he's like, you can't imagine the scope of this event. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I got there and I'm like, holy crap. He was right. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's a really good word for it, right? It's, the area that we have, Lincoln, it is, we're fortunate that we're able to use as much space as we are, and it's enormous, but the crazy thing about that is we fill it with, the paddock is enormous, and we fill it with cars, and we get 1,300 of them out there, and rigs and trucks and trailers and tents and, everything that you can, bring with you. And that alone is, is like just huge. Right. And then, you have the solo downtown area, which is the trek, the tents and the vendor row and all that. And that alone is also pretty large. And then we have these two huge grids, right? Because we have two courses. And we're putting a bunch of cars in those grids because, again, we're running a lot of cars through there. And so everything is just big. And then the courses themselves, the space we have to use for courses is as large as, most any individual site in the country. And we have two of those going. And then we have a test course, which is, again, equal to a whole other course, right?
Yeah, so, and that test course, I mean, there are some local autocrosses that are the size of that test course. So
exactly,
so it's like three full events going on. And I was warned last year, you're going to have a bike or a scooter or a golf cart. And I'm like, really? Do I really need to spend the money on a golf cart? Gosh, I'm so happy I got a golf cart last year, because it's like, it must be 1,000 yards from tip to stern.
Yeah, I don't know the measurement, but it's, yeah, I mean,
I wish so.
And that's taken away the course area, right? Because just getting from one end of the paddock to the other, it takes.
It's
certainly wouldn't want to walk it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, for only this reason, that it's part of an airport, because you can't fly a drone to go and take video to actually kind of show what that is, because it would be beautiful to have just a drone to show the whole size of what's going on. But it's on the far side from the Lincoln Air Park, so there's a whole bunch of FAA restrictions, and I'm sure that you would never get a clearance to fly a drone there. But it would be so cool to be able to get that perspective of what's going on.
Every year we talk about trying to do that, and I know, like you said, it's an active airport,
right?
And I don't know that would ever happen, but boy, it sure would be neat just to get that view.
One of the coolest experiences was for me on the first day. So there's the corn side and the airport side, the plane side, which is basically the course that's closest to the runways is called the plane side. The course on the other side is the corn side, and of course it's Nebraska, so corn side makes perfect sense to me. And I actually think there's a cornfield out there somewhere if you look far enough.
Right.
But one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my many, many years of doing this is I'm driving on the race on the plane side, and I'm coming around the corner to come back towards the finish line, and there is an F-18 doing touch and goes right next to me on the runway, and that is just crazy cool.
Yeah. They got some neat planes there, and in the past, if you for a couple of years there, when they were repaving off at Air Force Base, they had those planes down.
Oh,
and so we had even in that limited our paddock space a little bit, but those planes are active, right? So they're if you look back through some old photos and stuff from just a few years ago, you'll see just mad doomsday plane, just massive planes taking off and landing, and right beside the autocross course. And that's one of the really neat things about Lincoln. And it's such a great, we have a really good relationship with the airport and the city itself. And that obviously helps tremendously for them to let us do what we're doing.
Sure. Right now, only 5 people on the wait list. So
perfect.
That's and it may be too late for those folks to make a decision to go. That's always the hard part about a wait list at the last minute. But a couple of them are close, Kansas City, Lone Star, and Nebraska region. So they're close enough where they could make the trip if they were making plans. So that's pretty cool. Love to see that most everybody who wanted to get in got in. So here's the other thing that's really interesting. Like I said, I've been to all these big events with the runoffs and all these things. And those are going to like purpose-built facilities with buildings and all of that kind of stuff. You guys show up and it's a blank tarmac, and you're building a racetrack for an event with 1,300 cars with nothing to start with, and you do it every year. It's just when did the logistic? I guess because you keep going back every year, you kind of know after the first 3 or 4 times the right people to call where you're going to put stuff. But in theory, when do you start planning for next year's Solo Nationals? Like 3 months ago?
A couple years ago. Some of it's the same from year to year, relatively same, right? Generally speaking, the courses are in the same spot, right? East-west course, plain side, corn side, that sort of thing. Grid's about in the same spot. We've changed around a little bit over the last few years. The Solo downtown area, bringing in the Trek, the tents, Tire Rec Event Center tents, and those sort of things. And then of course the paddock. we've changed around over time, and you think every year, you learn, right? You think last year was our 50th. You think we'd have it all pretty figured out by then, but that's never the case. We run into stuff and figure out that there's better ways to do it.
Right.
And so a lot of it really is nonstop. I mean, we start planning the following year's event even before this was over.
Right.
And because you really have to do that, with all the contacts and permits and all those things that you have to do. But it's, you have a pretty good formula going in, have a plan. We've got a lot of really great people that have done it year after year after year. So they're all helping set it up. But it set up, as long as we have good weather, setup's relatively easy. I say easy, that's the wrong word, because it's exhausting.
Right.
But it flows pretty well. We'll go in Monday morning of the week prior, or the week of the finale.
So
we'll
5 days from today.
Yeah. It takes about that long.
Didn't mean to give you a little heart attack.
Yeah, right. No, it's we're certainly right in the smack dab in the middle of it. But yeah, it's you just have a plan set out, and we got to get this done and this done and this done, and we've got a pretty good group of people out there that just go nonstop and get it all done.
So do we know where the 2025 Solo Nationals are going to be?
Well, planning on right back here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I know last year there was some late decision or late announcements anyway. I wasn't sure if there's been a long-term deal or not.
No, yeah, we don't really have a long-term deal. There's some talk about somebody coming in and leasing space out, leasing part of the paddock, or not paddock, but part of our racing surface out.
Got it.
And doing some work there. But those things take quite a while to do, and,
sure.
and there's lots of moving parts just to get that all put together. So the immediate, as long as we're good citizens and everything out there, and we do our part, then yeah, certainly next year looks we're planning on being right back there. So
this is the time where I will give my public service announcement that you did not ask me to give, but I'll give it anyway because it's important. When you're driving back and forth from the event, don't do stupid stuff like burnouts and like you said, be good citizens, because if we do something dumb, it is very easy for them to ask us to not come back.
Yeah.
And
not just when you're driving back and forth, but also just when you're on the site.
Sure.
There's a lot of rules there, and those rules are, because it's an active,
right.
It's an active airport.
Yep.
And so we have to keep it clean. We have to keep the trash under control, all those things, and keep noise under control. Believe it or not, especially at night, there are neighborhoods around there,
right?
And and then we just have to behave. There's snow fence up. And, the main purpose of the snow fence that's along the runway edge is to catch any garbage that might get loose, right, to keep the wind from blowing it onto a runway. But the other part of it is don't cross it, right? Because that's an active taxiway over there, and it's all FAA controlled space, and we just can't be over there.
There's the little taxiway halfway to trailer jail.
Yeah.
And there's always
and we're so fortunate that they'll work with us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that I could have easily just, they just could have said, you can't go down here, right, because we need this space. But again, they're willing to work with us on that. And, before you cross that taxiway, stop, look, and listen, right? Just like a train track or something.
And there's always a guy or a person parked out there,
yep.
Making sure we don't do something stupid. And I'm always thinking to myself, hey, is that guy got a bazooka in that?
Don't want to find out.
Rocket propelled grenade launcher.
One thing they do have is cameras, right? There's not a piece of, a section of that tarmac anywhere that they don't have on video.
Sure.
And so, we get, unfortunately, we'll get a phone call, and it's like, hey, this, can you come up here and look at this, talk about this, let's, we got to talk about this. And whether or not he has a bazooka, they've got cameras on us everywhere. So
did you get a call last year, how did you let a car as slow as a Honda Fit come and play this thing? Did you get that call?
No. A whole class for you.
Oh, that would be funny. That would be fun. So what's new? What's fun this year? I know it's a cowboy Southwest theme this year. What's the actual name of the theme? I can never remember.
Wild West.
Wild
Not
West.
Southwest. Wild
West. That's what it is.
Yeah, you're from the Southwest. So
that's true.
I think it's going to be fun. Wild West theme. Kind of do with it as you will, right? Within reason. The biggest thing that we're doing this year, I think that's exciting for myself and a lot of people is, typically Monday night we have a welcome party, and then we pack everybody into the tent, feed them all, and and it's noisy and tight and all that, and you get what we ordered up from the caterers, right? Yep. Well, this year what we're doing is we have a whole bunch of groups, right? So regions, everybody knows that some regions are more they have a lot of camaraderie, and they band together, and they party, and they do a lot of really fun stuff. So what we decided to do this year was we just turned all the cooking over to them.
Okay.
And put out, hey, this is what we need. A bunch of the regions stepped up. We split the paddock. So as you go out of the track area, right, the Tire Rack Event Center, where we'll start the welcome party there and welcome everybody in. But that's really the start. It's almost like a pub crawl or something like that, in other words. And we split the paddock, and there's a lane right down the middle, and you can just start walking down that lane and stop and get food from each of the different groups, try what they have, and just it's just a big walking party set up this year. So I think that's really exciting. A lot of excited groups are looking forward to cooking, and I think that'll be a lot of, and then of course it's right kickoff night, so there should be lots of Wild West outfits going on there, which will be kind of fun. So looking forward to that a lot.
Should be fun. Looking forward to it. Brian, thank you. Anything else you want to share before we say goodbye?
And I just appreciate having us on. Looking forward to it. And come on out, enjoy the fun. Looking forward to seeing you, Brian, and everybody else out there. And come on out, say hi, and have a good time.
I'll be out there, obviously, competing on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to come out and do a bunch of interviews on Monday. My hope is to have 4 shows. Well, we're going to have 4 shows. I'm not quite sure when the 4th one's going to air, because I know we'll have enough to do Tuesday, but when I'm competing Tuesday, Wednesday, we might not have a show on Wednesday, but we'll definitely have one Thursday, Friday, and if we don't get the 4th show in from there, we'll put that out sometime over the weekend or early the following week. So 4 shows, looking for guests. So if you want to be on the shows, there's a whole bunch of ways to get a hold of me. Facebook's a good one, Facebook Messenger. You can also email me. It's race announcer Brian at Gmail. But I'm pretty easy to find out there. But certainly let me know, and we'll find a way. I think I don't know exactly where I'm going to be yet, but we'll work that out in the next couple of days, and I'll share that with everybody. But we'll be somewhere in the event center area is where we'll be set up to do the shows. And I'm also looking forward to it. I'm going to help out with the morning shows, which is going to be fun this year.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to helping out those guys there. They do a great job. So I'm going to be the guy, the newbie coming in to kind of learn the ropes a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that as well. That is going to do it here for another episode of Inside the SCCA, presented by raceschool.com. If you like what you heard and like what you saw, subscribe to the RacingWire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube. Also be great if you leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. You can go to the Racing Network on Instagram and RacingWire Info on the Twitter. Or X, I'll never call it X, on Twitter. New Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Bielanski. Have a good time, have a great weekend, and go play with cars.
I'm Abby Shear, and when I'm on my way to an autocross, I listen to the Inside the SCCA podcast.
Inside the SCCA is a presentation of the RacingWire Podcast Network and Rule 15 Productions. This podcast is not affiliated with, endorsed, or sponsored by the Sports Car Club of America. The views expressed within are those of the host and our guests and not that of the SCCA.